Hello, everyone. This is Chris Fleming with KFP Investors with another edition of Lender Chat. KFP Investors is your investment real estate financing solution. And for our Lender Chat, I do need to disclose to you KFP Investors LLC does not give legal, tax, economic, or investment advice. We disclaim all liability for the action taken as a result of communication from or to its employees, contractors, clients, prospective clients, or participants. You should definitely get your own counsel, accounting, legal advice, economic advice, investment advice. So thank you so much for joining us today. My good friend, Brent Wheeler, has agreed to tell us his story, which I find incredibly fascinating. Brent, tell us a little bit about yourself and then how you got started.
Okay. I got started in the real estate world as a loan officer back in 2006 when it was easy to give anyone who had a beating heart a loan. And I was part of the reason for the collapse, so I apologize for that. But from there, I transitioned into servicing reverse mortgages, and I did that for 7.5 years. And I worked in the tax and insurance default department. And over the time, we serviced around 300,000 mortgages throughout the nation. And one particular day, we lost a property tax foreclosure. It was worth about $300,000, and the person who purchased it bought it for $9,000. And I couldn't quite justify and explain to my head how someone could own a $300,000 house for $9,000. But then I realized certain states are tax deed states, and at that time I lived in the state of Michigan, and I realized Michigan is a tax deed state. So I started buying tax foreclosures on my own, and then learning about mortgage foreclosures. And
what does that mean, tax deed state?
So different states have different tax laws. So some states are tax lien states where you agree to buy the delinquent taxes, you pay off the taxes so that the city or county gets them, and then over the course of a certain amount of years, you earn interest on that lien. And if it never gets paid back, it then converts to the deed of the property. Some states like Michigan, they wait until there's 3 years of delinquent taxes. And once those 3 years happen, they auction off essentially the deed to the property to pay off those delinquent taxes. So just kind of varies. Tennessee's kind of a hybrid mixture of it. It's a tax deed state, but there's a 1-year redemption on it.
Okay.
So you could pay it, and then during that time frame, I believe the interest rate is 12%. Sorry, my phone's going off. You earn 12% throughout the year, and then after a year, if it doesn't get redeemed, then you get the deed to the property.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for that explanation.
No problem.
So you bought your first property on a tax deed? Is that
yes. Yep. So
terminology?
the first property I ever bought was $4,500, and it needed a lot of work. We ended up putting, I want to say, like $40,000 into it. So it was quite the project, but it ended up keeping it for 3 years and renting it out for $900 a month for over the course of those 3 years. So from a return on investment, it was still a great return. And then after holding it for 3 years, we ended up selling it for like $65,000 to a California investor. So made money on equity, made money on the rental income. We kind of bird it. So after it was fixed up, the bank gave us essentially almost all the money back.
Nice.
So yeah, it was really good first introduction to that. And that was back in 2012, 11, 12, somewhere around there. And then 2015, I bought my first mortgage foreclosure property. And then I found out that the profit that I was going to get from this one property was equivalent to my 1 year's worth of working at the job. And so I actually gave them a 2-month notice because that was about the time when I was going to be able to start working. That's when I was going to be able to get into the house and start working on it. And then I remember I bought 7 one-way tickets to travel to all throughout the United States to look at other real estate markets to move to and invest in.
Wow.
and then that's how I accidentally discovered the little town of Nashville. Um, it was the only reason I bought a plane ticket was because it was cheaper to fly to Nashville first and to get to Charlotte, North Carolina, than it was to fly directly. And so that's the only reason I bought a ticket to Nashville.
How fun.
Yeah.
So what was it about Nashville that inspired you to relocate?
This was back in 2015, so it hadn't exploded yet. But I could see that it was about to. Like I could see the growth. That I mean, there was a couple of tall buildings being built, but not like it had been the last 3 years. And at that time, back in 2015, property values here were still cheap. I mean, it was almost comparable to what they were in Michigan in a lot of
Right.
places. But I could see the growth, and I could see, I mean, it had everything going for it. It had, professional sports, in the music industry, in the food, in the hospitals, and like had everything. And so when I looked at the other markets to compare to, like, as far as property values were and what I could see them increasing to be in everything that I wanted to have where I lived, that's what kind of really made me take a second look in Nashville. So, and because I went to all the major cities, I went to Charlotte, Austin, Houston, Denver, LA, San Diego, Phoenix. I mean, those were big places to invest in. But at the
Right.
time, all those the average sales of those houses were like 200,000 and above. In 2015 in Nashville, you could still buy properties for 50 grand. Like,
Wow. Yeah.
so that's what kind of really appealed me to going back to Nashville.
And so how did you discover and become interested in mortgage foreclosures?
So yeah, that's actually kind of been the bread and butter for the last, I don't know, 4 years. Is in Michigan, there's a particular website you can pay to have access to, and it gives you kind of the entire list of mortgage foreclosures that are coming up in the next month throughout the
Oh,
entire state. And in Michigan, you can get you buy the deed, or you buy the actual mortgage paper, and you don't get to have the deed until usually about 6 months, because there's a 6-month redemption period in the state of Michigan. So
oh, okay.
you're kind of buying the note and waiting, hoping they don't redeem it, and then you can get the property. And so after doing my first one back in whatever it was, 2013, 2014, it was just a really great way to invest because there wasn't a whole lot of competition. There was maybe 5 or 6 guys who would show up to buy these. Um, and we just started buying them and slowly converting them into, originally they were long-term rentals, but now we've converted everything into Airbnb and short-term, midterm rentals.
What makes you prefer the Airbnb and short-term, mid-term rental model over long-term rentals?
For me, it's now that we have a system in place. So when
Okay.
someone makes a booking, they have to send us a copy of their ID. They have to sign a rental agreement with us. They have to pay a security deposit with us. So it's additional security for me, and I have a cleaner going in every week, few days, a month, whatever it is. And I find that guests take care of the property better versus a long-term tenant.
Okay.
Every long-term tenant I've ever had, I've had to come in and repaint or redo the floors, or I just have to always fix something.
Right.
With short-term tenants, I don't feel like I have to do that as often. Um, on top of that, the income generated from having a short-term rental is usually, or my experience where we're at, has been twice as much, if not 3 times as much as what we would normally get.
That's not awful.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, we are paying expenses, but so I guess the net income usually ends up in the houses that I have usually ends up being about $1,000 more as a short-term or midterm rental in comparison to a long-term rental.
And how many properties do you currently have?
We have 8 currently running. We're doing our 9th remodel right now. And then we have a 10th one that we could be operating right now. But I'm actually going through my first rezoning application.
Oh,
I found out that the lot that I have is surrounded by multifamily. And according to the city, we have the ability to build 10 houses on this one lot.
Wow.
So whether or not it will make sense to do so, I don't know, but I at least want to go through the process to see uh, if we want to do that.
Well, we'll have to come back to you after it's completed so we
Yeah,
can learn about the process of rezoning.
yeah,
Uh, as lenders, we get that question quite often. And my answer is kind of, well, I know it has to be done, but I don't really know how to do it. That's not in my book of responsibilities.
right. Yeah,
But yeah, you'll have to teach us how that's done. Give us the play by play.
I will. I will. It's my first experience. My brother does it all the time in Boston.
No kidding.
Yeah, he tears down houses and builds new ones, and if they're big enough, gets them rezoned to build two or three. There's lots of guys that do it here in Nashville as well, but yeah, it's just not my expertise at this point.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's something I want to trend to. I definitely like the thought of doing new build projects.
Okay. And so you were sharing recently a story at a networking event about what investment real estate has empowered you to do with your life. And as someone who is, I mean, my whole goal in everything that I do professionally is to help others build their legacy. So seeing someone who is so content with what they've built is truly an inspiration for the rest of us. So can you tell us about what you've built and what you have?
Yeah, I mean, I've done over the course since I started in 2010. Well, 2009, I bought my house, which I technically still own. It was my first Airbnb. But in 2010 is when I bought my first rental property, and I've just been steadily investing, buying houses here and there, putting renters in them, getting them to appreciate, then reselling them and kind of upgrading to the next property and so forth. Um, so real estate's a get rich slow scheme. It's not anything. It's if you just do it consistently and make the numbers work, like eventually at the end of when you're gonna retire, you'll be in a really good position to retire. Um, so I've been able to scale using for the last 4 to 5 years, buying $50,000 to $60,000 houses in the area where I invest in Michigan, putting 30 to 40K into them, refinancing them, and then furnishing them, staging them, and then creating a short-term rental market within that area. And that currently over the past 4 months has been generating around anywhere between 23 and 26,000 a month in gross rents. So my goal was to get to the point where it's systemized, it's automated, and so when a booking request comes in, they get an automatic email. I have my mom who works and kind of manages the cleaning. And then I have good friends. I have all the electricians, plumbers, and HVAC people that I need in the areas. I have someone who mows the lawn every 10 days or so. So it's getting to the point where I can go on vacation. I don't really have to worry. Like everything's ran through my phone. If someone has a question, it pops up and we can respond. But my wife has now taken a year off from teaching, so I'm actually teaching her the business, so that she can handle the reviews, she can change the prices. So it's getting to the point where um, almost everything is automated.
That's amazing. And so, one of the things that really stood out to me as we were discussing scheduling this chat was you suggested, could we do it next week while your family's on vacation? And I said, no, 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 don't spend family time with me. We'll do it the week after. And you said,
I
do you
spend all
remember?
my time with them anyways.
Right. All day, every day with
Pretty
your
much.
wife and kids.
Yes.
And so it didn't really matter. And I love that. So part of the reason I became self-employed is because I wanted the opportunity to integrate my life and my work rather than build a life from what was left over of my time after I worked.
Yeah.
And excuse me, that's what I continue to try to build in all of my companies and with all of our employees. I try to structure every employee such that they have a micro business essentially within our business,
Yeah.
so that they can have that ultimate freedom as well. And so I just loved so much that you said that. um, I was trying to be respectful of your family time, and you're like, all my time is my family time. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I think how many people are likely to be so incredibly envious of that. So I'm thrilled that you're sharing your story to demonstrate that this is real and it's doable and
Yeah.
it's obtainable.
Yeah, we just had a huge flip that, and the reason I bought it was because a mile from our house, and this was when Melissa, my wife, was pregnant with our little girl, and so it was a project that was close by. So if I had to run there, like I wasn't going to be gone from the house all day, I could just run down the road and whatever. And it was a long process. I mean, this flip took 9 months to complete, and
Mhm.
mainly that's partly on me not having the contractors here like I have in Michigan, but also um, I didn't do my due diligence of what everything needed to be in this house that had to be done. So we bought it at foreclosure sale, bought it for cash. But it was after this flip, I was just like, man, we spent a lot of time. Like, even though it's a mile down the road, I spent a lot of time like worrying about this. And I was like, I don't think I want to do big rehab projects anymore, just because it took up so much of family time. I mean, even though
Sure.
it was close by, I mean, it was great to take the kids to do it and see the project. But yeah, it made both of us realize, like, yeah, we're not going to do big rehab projects anymore, just because we don't need to, but B, it takes so much out of you
Yeah.
that so we're doing, quick paint, flooring type rehab projects, or we'll do stuff in Michigan where it's physically impossible for me to go to the house, just so that we can, spend more time with the family. We have 3 vacations. Well, we just got back from Michigan for Father's Day this past weekend. So we drove up there, looked at the project, drove back. But then we have a week in Orange Beach, and then come home, and then a week at Disney World a week after that we're spending with the family. And then um, now that my wife is not going back to school this year, we're already looking into like September and October. Like, hey, where can we do vacation stuff?
Right.
So,
Right. I love
so yeah,
that so much.
it's been a blessing.
So where are you finding the majority of your deals right now?
Um, Still buying foreclosures up in Michigan.
Mhm.
Um, for Nashville, I've been really picky for the Tennessee market, just because property values here are so high, and with interest rates being what they are, I just, if I'm gonna rehab something here, I want it to be on the lower end market, like in the 300 to 400,000 range, where it's still affordable for an end buyer. Um, I have friends who are still building $1 million houses, and that's awesome for them. And I hope it continues to work out. I would be fearful of that market because your buyer pool's limited. Um, but I mean, they're killing it. So I guess everything works until it doesn't. But yeah, I'm just being pretty conservative about what I'm personally buying right now. And um, I've softly listed all my short-term rentals for sale, just because if someone wanted to cash me out and I could do like new development here in Tennessee, I would do that.
Mhm.
um, but I'm not really eager to try to get rid of them either, just because they're cash flowing so well.
Sure. Sure. So, I loved what you said about your buying properties in Michigan primarily, in part because it's physically impossible for you to
Yeah.
go every day and check on the projects. I'm convinced that my husband regularly takes me camping because where we go, there's no Wi-Fi and there's no cell service, and
Yeah.
so I cannot work
Yeah.
So I'm reasonably convinced that's
Yeah.
why we go camping as regularly as we do. To be clear though, I do love camping.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. So
My,
stack
my
of magazines and the hammock, I'm good.
my wife loves camping too, as long as it's a condo at the beach. She does not want any type of no air conditioner or Wi-Fi. So
Well, I'm using the word camping rather broadly. We've got a 29-foot travel trailer, so we've got
okay,
heat and air conditioning and a stove and an oven and a microwave and
yeah,
all the
that's a good
comforts
setup.
of home. It's just smaller.
Okay, well, I wouldn't mind that. I would love to. Looking back when COVID happened, I kind of wish we would have just grabbed a trailer and traveled the U.S. because she was doing online teaching, and I didn't necessarily need to be here stuck at the house. But those are one of those opportunities we missed out on. But yeah, I don't mind camping, but I know she does not.
Well, I don't know how much you missed out because I can tell you that ever since COVID, just booking a camping site, um, we used to not have much trouble finding um, camping sites to book in state parks and national parks, which is our preference. And now we're having to book them months and months and months in advance
Oh,
because it seems like, half of Americans picked up camping and RVs during COVID, and now they're in my way. So it's over, everybody. Leave the
yeah,
campground. No, that's not true. Enjoy it. But I love the concept too of digital nomads, like you were talking
yeah.
about. Yeah,
Well,
we have.
I mean, for better or worse, I think COVID kind of spawned that. I mean, you see a lot of commercial buildings sitting empty right now. I just read an article that there was a huge commercial building in Texas, I think it was, that they had a 70 or $80 million loan on it, and it went to foreclosure, and then it went back to the bank for like 12 million. And I was like, wow, that's a that's a huge loss.
Yeah, office space is. Let's just say I'm not investing in office space right now.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and I mean, like we were talking about the ultimate freedom of being self-employed. I Our whole team works remotely. I don't want to pay for office space that I don't
yeah,
want to go to. My commute is 40 seconds every day. I walk across my backyard to the tiny house in my backyard, and
that's
that's where
awesome.
my office is.
I can't. I wish I had one of those tiny offices in my backyard, just so when the kids are all up and awake and screaming, it's hard to make phone calls.
Yeah, you have to have a code to get in the door, and my daughter does not have it.
That's great. I'm gonna suggest that. Maybe I can just buy one of those kid playpens and then
Put yourself in it,
right. Exactly.
a chair and a laptop, and you're in the
Yeah.
playpen, and the kids have
Yeah.
free reign.
I just need a bean bag and a blanket, and I'm set.
There you go. There you go. Well, Brent, I would love to ask you, this is one of my favorite parts of our interviews. If you could give your younger self three pieces of advice, real estate related or not, doesn't matter, three pieces of advice, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh gosh. Um, go back and buy everything in 2010. No. Uh, I've kind of been a lazy. I don't want to say lazy because I have worked hard in times, but for the most part, like I haven't been aggressively pursuing real estate like I wish I would have back in the day. Like, I wasn't doing cold calling when it was legal. Now it's not, but I wasn't sending out mailers. I wasn't doing door knocking when wholesaling was rampant. Um, so I wish before having a family and children, I wish I would have been a little bit more aggressive when I had that freedom of time to do so.
Mhm.
So going back to my younger self, I just wish I would have like pushed myself a little bit more. Um, but partnering with others who are doing what you're doing, I wish I would have seen the value in that, in either bringing deals to them, or kind of. I feel like if you would help people become more profitable, they would have been able to like assist you in your path further on down the road when you need help.
Mhm.
So Yeah, basically just, you know, helping out with others in their success would have been a great tip to learn uh, back in my younger self. So,
I love that advice. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a principle that I try to live by. The concept of lift as you rise, reach back and grab the person behind you
yeah.
and bring them forward. I actually looked at trying to name one of my companies that lift as you rise layer and different variations, and they're all already taken. So I guess it's pretty popular. Um,
Yeah. Makes sense, though.
yeah, yeah. Thank
Good
you.
mantra.
Yeah. So I'm going to press you. That was only two.
Oh, okay.
With
What did I
others
say?
and be
Be
more
more.
aggressive.
Okay. Three. Oh, hold on. My battery's gonna die.
Uh
How perfect timing would that have been? Luckily,
No
I was okay.
excuses, Brent.
Sorry, gotta go. Battery's dead. Uh, so, third one would be actually education. I was really against paying for education in the early stages of it, just because I thought so much of it was free on the internet. So why would I pay to go to a guru, so to speak? Um, but there are classes and lessons that you can learn that you won't necessarily find on the internet just for free. Like, for example, Brad Smotherman's a guy who I just took a course through, which it wasn't cheap by any means, but it was affordable for me. And the information that I've learned from this class has taught me how to do subject to and purchase property subject to. So I've done one that I've converted into an Airbnb. I've done another where I've wrapped a mortgage inside around another mortgage. That's information I would have never learned how to do properly on the internet. Um, so yeah, I would definitely recommend, when you find something that is of interest to you and you find someone who's excels at it, um, and if it is a course and you feel like that's what you are going to be wanting to do with your career, then by all means, find the way to get the funds to take it. So
As someone who is also a paid consultant and strategist, you're now in charge of the marketing campaign. So thank you very much for that.
yeah,
Uh, Pay for the education.
yeah, yeah,
I like it. I like it.
yeah. But I mean, marketing too. I mean, that's one thing. Gosh, I wish I was better at that.
Yeah.
I would just love to find someone. Right now, I think the next biggest thing is going to be artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
AI stuff. So I'm when I get a moment. It's hard with three little ones, but I've been
Three
trying to.
under five.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I've been trying to educate myself about AI this and AI that, and
Yeah.
how to simplify stuff, and it's just not
Yeah.
my wheelhouse. So
Yeah.
it's you know
Well, that's another one we'll come back to you for because I just need someone to like give me the tops of the waves. So you learn it and then,
okay.
give me the 30,000 foot high level view and come back to me and let me know.
Yeah.
So
I've done a few things of like how AI can like pull lists off websites, and
yeah,
yeah, I've dabbled with a couple things, but it's just how do I automate it is what I can't quite figure out yet.
right,
Yeah.
right. Very cool. Well, Brent, if people want to reach out to you regarding your short-term rentals, midterm rentals information, they just think you're a really cool guy and they want to pay you for your education. How can they reach you?
So the company name for the short-term rentals is capitalcityvacay.com. That has a kind of a dual meaning to it because both Lansing and Nashville are both capital cities. But so they can message me on there, or they can always email me. The best email is probably Spartan Prop, PROP, #1 @gmail.com, and that's usually tied to all my businesses, Spartan Properties. So
I can confirm that that email address is effective.
yeah. Yes, it's getting full. I might have to pay for storage soon.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and knowledge and experience with the interwebs. And
Yeah.
I'll see you soon at one of our networking events.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Chris.
All right. Bye.
Bye.